Glass.
Life insurance. Why are you putting it off? Can't afford it? Too much hassle? Think you don't need it? There's lots of excuses for putting off life insurance. But if you weren't there, who would pay the mortgage and other bills? With Ethos, you could be covered in 10 minutes and boom, family protected. Ethos, fast and easy online term life insurance. Up to $2 million in coverage with no medical exam. Some policies as low as $1 a day. Answer a few health questions and get your free quote at getethos.com. That's getethos.com.
Looking for that extra special and personal gift this holiday season? Give a Skylight frame. Skylight is a touchscreen digital picture frame that friends and family can easily send photos to, straight from your phone, and they'll pop up in seconds.
Our family loves their Skylight frames. There's something magical about seeing our most treasured memories in our home each day. It was the perfect gift for my parents after our son was born.
Surprise your loved ones this year with a beautiful Skylight frame. It's the perfect gift for new families, parents and grandparents, or anyone who has all their photos stuck on their phone. You can easily preload photos before you give it as a gift without even opening the box. For a limited time, get $20 off your purchase of a Skylight frame when you go to skylightframe.com/share. That's right. To get $20 off your Skylight frame, just go to skylightframe.com/share. That's skylightframe.com/share.
When's the best time to start planning a festive event? Right now. Enjoy a convenient downtown location with lots of parking. The Hilton Garden Inn Columbia Downtown is ready to book your festive event this year. Call 803-227-3400 today. Host a holiday celebration the office will buzz about, or ring in the new year in style. Let the Hilton Garden Inn Columbia Downtown help you create new memories this year. 803-227-3400.
AAA Heating and Air is on the hunt to find the oldest AC unit in our Midland service area. Do you think it could be yours? If you do, it could pay off. AAA Heating and Air and My Oldest AC contest is kicking off, and you have a chance to win a new HVAC system for your home. Just head over to their website, myoldAir.com, and complete the online entry form. AAA Heating and Air will draw a winner at random for every 100 entries. It really is that easy. Contest is limited time only. Residents in the AAA Heating and Air service area are eligible to enter. See the terms and rules on their website for a full list of contest rules.
What you're talking about. Sponsored by Love Chevrolet. Oh, by golly, it's a holly jolly season at Love Chevy with year-end savings you don't want to miss. I-26 at Harbison and lovechevy.com. Together, let's drive.
The game in Columbia, Florence, Myrtle Beach. I plug in my cool headphones. Tyler, of course, doing a little duty on the morning show today and tomorrow. He'll be back. We'll get it back for good on Friday. As we had our big Christmas shindig today for our wonderful sponsors and advertisers and clients. David Dare actually dressed up. Look at you, man. Wow.
I had to dig way back in the back of the closet.
Look at you. I didn't recognize you there for a couple of minutes when you walked in there. I thought you were like, somebody from CEO from one of these companies that we deal with. And I said, oh, no, that's Dave. Look at him. He showered.
Exactly. Comb my hair and everything.
You know what, though? I won't lie. We'll say this really quick. It was great. We love all the folks that stop in and hang out with us and say hi. But last year, you remember last year, right?
Yeah.
Last year there was a little, and I don't know if we told the story last year or not. Last year we did our little get together with the advertiser sponsors that we work with our business partners, and so we have this get together on the first floor, 19th floor, and it was the first year for a couple of our office staff, and somebody on the office staff put a sign on the first floor. What did it say, Dave? It said food on the 19th floor.
Yeah.
So if you work in an office building and someone puts a sign up that says food on the 19th floor, what are you going to do?
I'm going.
We had the entire bleeping Bank of America building in our party, our little party for the afternoon. The place was packed, right?
20 floors.
People were just walking in, and they're taking plates of food. Nobody's just taking one. People were taking 3 plates, 2 plates, whatever. The best thing that happened is the guy that walks in with the Tupperware. Remember him, Dave?
Yep.
My man owned it, too. He walked in with his Tupperware. He breaks open his Tupperware. He's filling up the Tupperware with food. And he looks at us and goes, thanks a lot. Happy holidays. And just walks out. I have been to a lot of these things in my life. I've never seen a cat bring Tupperware.
Do you know, that's a good idea. I think I'll do that.
I was like, wow, why did anybody else ever thought of this? Look at this guy. It's like, yeah, the food's good now. But if you don't mind, I need some leftovers for the next couple of days already. You know, my wife's at home and she didn't feel like cooking. You don't mind, do you? It was so good. So this year we do our little get-together. And guess what we didn't do? We didn't put a sign on the first floor that said food on the 19th floor. Didn't do that this year.
Nope.
Matter of fact, I think B106 had a Facebook message from someone in the building here saying, hey, you guys having that party again this year?
Was it the Tupperware guy?
Tupperware guy. Oh, anyway. So that guy was great. I mean, we were up there laughing. I think that story got told 10 times today upstairs, and every time everybody just started laughing because you had to see it. And, you know, you're sitting here listening. You had to. It's one of those visuals because my man just walked in. He owned it, too. He had his Tupperware, zinged right over to the line, started filling up, walked right out. So good. So good. Anyway, all right, we were hanging out. Halftime show to 3. Our good pal here, Captain Dave, is going to spend an hour with us. Obviously, a 3:30 press conference today. And the new athletic director, according to many sources, will be announced and introduced. And you've heard about it by now. What's going on? Digging from TCU to get Jeremiah Donati. You just know what you know by reading about it. And there's people who liked what he did at TCU, people who didn't. It's a mixed bag, and that happens a lot with athletic directors. Basically, Donati hired Sonny Dykes, and, of course, TCU went to the college football playoff, played in the championship game, got run by Georgia. Since then, the football program's been when it comes to one-loss record. Jamie Dixon, who I believe was brought in before Donati off the top of my head, has gotten TCU back to the NCAA tournament because that's just what Jamie Dixon does. He gets you to the tournament and then he gets knocked out the first weekend. That's kind of Jamie Dixon. But TCU's basketball program is solid. The football program, like I said, played for a national championship a few years ago. They won a bunch of different championships that aren't college football or college basketball at TCU under Donati. Before coming to TCU, Donati was with Lee Steinberg Sports and Entertainment as general counsel and director of player representation. Also worked at college fundraising positions at Arizona, Washington State, and Cal Poly. This guy raises money. That's what he does. They've raised money at TCU. They have built facilities. They've, that's the name of the game today, especially in the world we're looking at now, where eventually this House versus the NCAA is going to be settled. There's going to be some kind of, whether it's $22 million or wherever the number, there's going to be a quote-unquote athlete compensation cap that schools will have to adhere to. You've got to go find money. The NIL, we just heard a lot of NIL talk the last hour here on with the Gamecock Central guys. NIL's not going away. I know one of the things I keep reading with this NCAA versus House suit that's going to get settled is the NCAA is trying to push the agenda. This will be the end of the collectives. No, it won't. Because the minute you try to end the collectives, guess where you're going to be? Back in court. Because once again, you're restricting people to make a living. And if you try to cut the NILs out or try to put up some kind of rules and regulations to make the NILs go away, now you are stopping a possible revenue stream for players. NIL's not going anywhere. There's this thing called antitrust. NCAA keeps forgetting about antitrust. And that's the reality of this. You fundraising, NILs, you need to be able to generate revenue. You need to be able to put money in your pocket as a university, as an athletic program. And this is what old Jeremiah has done. He did it before TCU. He did it at TCU. I've always said this about athletic directors. I understand the new world of athletic directors. I get it. You need guys who can, generate revenue, can help you build facilities, can walk in those rooms real easy and deal with those type of things with business leaders and people with very deep pockets. I get the whole thing. But at the end of the day, you also need an athletic director who understands how to hire coaches. Yeah, you can use a search firm and all that other mumbo jumbo. A lot of them do. But the best ADs know how to hire the right coaches. They just do. Because you and I, fans, just regular schmoes, that's what we see the AD do, right? We don't hear all the other stuff the athletic director does. We just know this guy's hiring and firing the coaches for my favorite teams. That's what I know this guy does. And to some fans, that's all he does. Like, he's got a job, he gets a salary, but, you only need him a couple of weeks out of the year if you got to fire people and hire people. There's a lot more to the job. At the end of the day, yes, you need money. Yes, you need facilities. It's an arms race. I understand the whole spiel, right? But you got to be able to hire and fire folks when it comes to coaches. You got to know when to give a guy another year, when it's done and you need to pull the trigger. You need to know who to hire. Yeah, search firms can help you, but you obviously have to have some type of clue what you're doing, because that's the important stuff. But the new athletic director is a guy who is very good at getting money, and that is massively important today. So 3:30, now you'll be hearing the presser here on the game in Columbia. What's going on over at the University of South Carolina, and all the rumor and talk and scuttlebutt is the introduction of the new athletic director at South Carolina to replace Ray Tanner. Now, again, with Ray, people will point to, Will Muschamp. He hired Will Muschamp. How'd that go? Yeah, exactly. That's true. That was a huge miss. Lamont Paris seems like a hit. We believe Paul Mainieri will be a gigantic hit. Seems like Shane Beamer right now is a hit. Mark Kingston, not so much, obviously. And Chad Holbrook obviously didn't reach the heights that a lot of folks were hoping he would, replacing Ray. So, again, like most athletic directors who have been around for a good bit of time, there is going to be, thumbs up and thumbs down on their performance. But Ray will be leaving. And no matter what you think of Ray Tanner as the athletic director, one thing you can't take away is the Hall of Fame iconic baseball coach that Ray Tanner was. He was phenomenal. So Ray will go into another role at the university, and now there will be a new athletic director. More of the new world type of athletic director that we see today, more of that Fortune 500 CEO type that comes from the financial world or the business world or whatever. Because again, say it with me, college football is a big business. It's not little old college athletics anymore. You need guys who understand big business. You just hope they also understand how to hire coaches and when to fire coaches. Have some kind of understanding and instinct in that arena, because, good chance you're going to be doing it. When to extend a coach, when not to extend a coach. So all these things that you got to be the trigger man on. So that will be at 3:30 today. We will have the presser, at least first part of the presser, right here on 107.5 The Game. All right, Shane Beamer talked to the media yesterday, and obviously Shane talked a ton about the college football playoff and where South Carolina is and how disappointed he is in it, just like the fan base. And we're going to play some Shane cuts next, and we're going to, start off with Shane's thoughts on where South Carolina is in the college football playoff poll. That is coming up next. Terry Ford, Captain Dave,
Play and download the 107.5 The Game app and stream for no charge. And listen for no charge. 107.5 The Game. Broadcasting
Lectured Home. Palmetto Citizens has you covered. They're a community financial institution based solely here in the Midlands, so they offer a refreshingly simple mortgage process you won't get from the big banks or online lenders. Along with a great rate, the Palmetto Citizens mortgage team will work with you to tailor the loan to best fit your needs and budget. Apply for your mortgage today by visiting palmettocitizens.org or stopping by any of their 14 branches across the Midlands. Palmetto Citizens, proudly serving this community since 1936.
Makes you wanna smile. Call 803-510-5447 for complete details.
Honey, look, the hookers. They've moved off the highway and now they're all over the parking lot.
What are all those Schroeder's towing trucks doing in that parking lot, though?
Must be towing all those unauthorized cars parked in the lot. Good thing the business owner called Schroeder's Towing to keep their parking lot clear for just their customers. Didn't those cars see the free signage that Schroeder's provides to business owners to deter unauthorized parking?
I guess not.
Schroeder's Towing, the best and fastest hookers in town.
Open enrollment is going on now. Don't be frustrated by having to choose your health plan on your own. South Carolina Blue is here for you. Located on Bower Parkway right here in Columbia, Giovanni and her team of health insurance experts can help you find a health plan for 2025 that fits you and your budget. Time is running out to secure your coverage for January 1st. Schedule your no-cost appointment today at scbluehereforyou.com.
Looking for that extra special and personal gift this holiday season? Give a Skylight frame. Skylight is a touchscreen digital picture frame that friends and family can easily send photos to, straight from your phone, and they'll pop up in seconds.
Our family loves their Skylight frames. There's something magical about seeing our most treasured memories in our home each day. It was the perfect gift for my parents after our son was born.
Surprise your loved ones this year with a beautiful Skylight frame. It's the perfect gift for new families, parents and grandparents, or anyone who has all their photos stuck on their phone. You can easily preload photos before you give it as a gift without even opening the box. For a limited time, get $20 off your purchase of a Skylight frame when you go to skylightframe.com/share. That's right. To get $20 off your Skylight frame, just go to skylightframe.com/share. That's skylightframe.com/share.
Firehouse Subs, Hook and Ladder jingle, take one.
Hook and ladder, when it's hot, it just tastes better. Warm that smoky turkey, that thin sliced honey.
Guys, this is a 30-second ad. You gotta sing faster.
Hook and ladder, when it's hot, it just tastes better. Melty cheese and toast bread, mustard mayo, purpose bread, lettuce, green, and onion. The sandwich is too big for the song. It's too big.
The Hook and Ladder, available only at participating Firehouse Subs restaurants.
Halftime show. Terry Ford rolling it solo today. Tyler will be back with us on Friday. He'll be hanging out with Preston and Bill tomorrow on the early game. Jen's taking a couple days off. I know. What's up with her? Just don't understand this days off thing. People want days off. I don't get this. Dave just came back from days off. I don't understand why people.
How'd y'all survive?
We didn't. We didn't. Thank God you're back. I don't know if we would have made it through the week without this thing going off the air. Chase.
Yeah, I forwarded the calls, so.
Yeah, you did forward calls for us, so I appreciate that. So take another day
to call
off.
Elijah and go, Elijah, forward the calls, but.
And by the way, since you actually worked, you can take another day off.
Yeah, that's right. I worked for all 2 minutes.
That's right. All right, Shane Beamer talking to the media yesterday. Look, I get it. I mean, if you're Shane Beamer and you're South Carolina, like you, a Gamecock fan, are as well, you know, different levels of annoyed with how the college football playoff rankings, how they laid out on Tuesday. This thing is very subjective. There are no set rules, no set regulations, like, you know, the NFL, for an example, that has a clear criteria. When it comes to ranking teams for playoffs, it's very simple. In college, it's purposely not simple. Because let's get this out of the way. The powers that be that really run college football, they love this. They don't want rules like the NFL. One-loss record's the number one criteria. Number 2 is head-to-head. Number 3 is conference record. Number 4 is... They don't want all that mess. They love this chaos. Because you know what chaos does? Keeps people talking about you. Keeps you in the news. Keeps you on TV, radio, internet, social media. Shane Beamer going... I'm not going to say nuclear, but Shane Beamer being annoyed yesterday and talking about where South Carolina sits in the college football playoff rankings. And we're talking about it, and his audio and video gets out everywhere. Those college football playoff folks, they're tingly. They don't care if it's fair or not. They care about marketing and promotion. No such thing as bad talk. We love it. We just want the buzz. We don't care if it's good or bad. We want to stay in the conversation. And they are. They're staying in the conversation like nobody's business. So they don't care. Let's just be honest. They don't care how South Carolina feels, Ole Miss feels, Miami feels, anybody else who's not real happy with the poll results. They don't care. Because what you're doing is what they want you to do. Scream and yell about it, good or bad, to keep them in the news. It's that simple, man. All right, here's Shane. We'll start off with this. This is cut 2, Dave. The College Football Playoff Committee's lack of emphasis on strength of schedule. Hit it.
I would say it's very surprising. Ward manual, if I hear the word data point one more time in my life, I may throw up. But there's a lot of data points that they apparently take into make their decisions. But I'm not sure strength of schedule is one of them, because I don't know how you can go play Clemson last week in the biggest game in the history of the Carolina-Clemson rivalry, win a game over a team that's ranked higher than you, and move up one spot. And another team can beat a team that's not even going to a bowl game and move up 2 spots. Or how you can sit there with a straight face and say that the results of this weekend don't matter. I would say a Clemson team that has a potential to be an ACC champion, having a loss on their home field to a team like us, that's a pretty freaking strong data point, if you ask me. So it's just frustrating, Jack, in that I don't really know what they look at. We've had previous, committees that said we start with a blank slate every single week. And if you start with a blank slate every week and you say, okay, let's rank the 12 best teams, regardless of record, it's hard to say, like I told you guys on Saturday, that we're not one of them in my mind. So that part of it is disappointing, that it doesn't appear they started with a blank slate. And I get it. They're going to say, well, head to head, you can't be ahead of Alabama and Ole Miss because you lost to Tennessee at one point when they both had the same number of losses and Tennessee beat Alabama. So I don't know if that holds up. And then it's the frustrating, and I feel like a basketball coach now, because I feel like I see this every year on Selection Sunday before March Madness, is like, what's the criteria? Because last year injuries were clearly a factor because they left Florida State out because of an injury. And this year, I guess injuries aren't a factor as well. Or, on and on and on. I mean, there's other things I can get into, but don't need to. But that's just the disappointing thing is there's a lot of data points that are out there. And if their job's to truly pick the 12 best teams, to sit there and say that we're not even in the top 12, but what are we ranked, 15th or whatever we came, 14th? I don't know. It's there's some really competent people in that room that I know personally, but their decision on this one's a head scratcher.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I will say this with Shane, I will disagree mildly with him. I don't think they looked at a lot of data points. I think Shane's giving them too much credit. I think they, plain and simple, they looked at the head-to-head. Even like Shane said, earlier this year it didn't matter. But they can throw out the head-to-head, and that knocks South Carolina right out of the way. This time. For this specific committee, I don't think they took into account the 6-game win streak or how well South Carolina's playing or who they've beaten or how many top 25 teams they've knocked off. Or the fact that their losses, they don't have a, woo, you got beat by Kentucky in any of their losses, or, woo, you got beat by Vanderbilt, or, wow, a mediocre Oklahoma team ran your bleep over. They didn't look at any of that. They didn't look at the win over Clemson. They are looking at head-to-head. Alabama and Ole Miss both beat South Carolina. And like Shane said, okay, did you take that into account earlier this year where Tennessee had beaten Bama, but Bama was ahead of Tennessee? Of course not. It feels like this. And it's not a shock to anyone. The only metric they look at all the time is the brand name metric. You can call it the Alabama metric if you want to. Alabama is always going to, if all things are close, the love is always going to go to the Tide. I was reading something, somebody said, well, they've earned it. That's such a load of fertilizer. This shouldn't be what you've done the last so many years. What do you do this year? There is no we grandfather you in because you've been good the last 7 or 8 years. No, how good are you this year? What is your resume for this year? That's not the way it goes. Because, again, the big brand names and the blue bloods in college football typically also pull the best ratings. And at the end of the day, this is a TV show. College football playoff games are TV shows. You want the highest rating for your TV show? Alabama's going to get you higher ratings than Ole Miss or South Carolina or Miami. This isn't the U Miami from the 90s or the early new millennium. It's a different Miami. There's a generation of people that have no clue how good Miami used to be. At all. So Miami's not the brand it was years ago. But Alabama, out of those 4 schools, it's easy they'll get you the most ratings and the biggest number. So, of course, all things being equal, this committee will find a way to push Alabama ahead of the Ole Misses and the South Carolinas and the Miamis. Alabama, South Carolina, Ole Miss, same type of resumes, right? Why did only Alabama go ahead of Miami? Why didn't Ole Miss and South Carolina? We talked about that yesterday. Why? Why not? All 3 should have jumped Miami if we're going by resume, because Miami's resume doesn't match up to either 3 of those teams, but only one of them jumped Miami. I'm not typically tinfoil helmet guy, but come on. This isn't really even a conspiracy theory. I mean, if you follow the game of college football, you see it, you know it, you get it. You do. I asked this question to someone today. We were just shooting a crap. I was like, what if we switched South Carolina and Alabama's resumes? And Alabama had the better metrics, but South Carolina, whose metrics are a little bit worse, had beaten Alabama head-to-head. Would South Carolina been pushed ahead of Alabama? Or would the committee going like this, yeah, we know South Carolina beat Alabama, but that was 6 weeks ago, and Alabama hasn't lost a game since, and their overall metrics are better. And we believe in looking at the whole resume in totality, not just head-to-head. It's probably what the committee would have said. That's my thought. Because, again, the one metric that is always going to get looked at is the brand. Are you a blue blood? Will you bring us higher TV ratings? That's the unfortunate reality of all this. And nothing about fairness here. We'll come back on the other side and hear more of Shane talking about what's the benefit of scheduling tough. Is there a benefit? Seems like there isn't if you look at how this thing's going. We'll get into that next. Here's some more Shane Beamer. Again, 3:30, you will hear on 107.5 The Game in Columbia, at least a part of the press conference as the new athletic director will be introduced right across the street here at USC. Next up, though, more Shane Beamer talking about why even schedule tough. Doesn't seem to help you at all. Might even hurt you. That's next here on the Halftime Show. Terry Ford, Captain Dave's here on The Game in Columbia, Florence, and Myrtle Beach. Well, we're talking about 3:30, the press conference for the new athletic director at South Carolina. You'll hear at least the beginning part of it here on 107.5 The Game in Columbia. As, again, that will kick off at 3:30 here on 107.5 The Game. Not with their affiliates in Myrtle Beach and Florence, though. All right, it's Jeremiah Donati. If you haven't heard yet, the current AD at TCU is wildly rumored to be the new athletic director at South Carolina. We talked a ton about that in the first riff of the show. I also were talking about what Shane Beamer said yesterday, his presser, as he talked about the college football playoff situation with the poll, also with early signing day. And let's get back to it, Dave, with Shane. Cut 4. Basically, when you look at, again, SMU strength of schedule is 77. Indiana strength of schedule, I think, is 17,412,000,000. But these are teams that will, especially Indiana's in the college football playoff. And if SMU handles their business as conference champion, they would be. But even if they lose, and we'll get into that, you only have one more loss than a South Carolina or an Ole Miss, or an Alabama for that matter. So here is Shane. Is there a benefit to scheduling tough now? And obviously strength of schedule doesn't seem to matter to this committee.
Changes. If you're asking, is there anything to gain by playing in some of these games that you play out of conference? I think it's something that not just us, but every team needs to look at, because clearly you can go through an entire season, not beat a ranked team, and be in the playoff if you just win. So, I think it's something. I'm a competitor. I love playing in those games. I'm looking forward to playing Virginia Tech in Atlanta next season. But the committee made it very clear that they really don't give a hoot who you beat. Just, don't lose 3 times and you're in, even if it means you never beat a ranked opponent. Not one. Don't beat a ranked opponent, but just win the games on your schedule and you're in. They made a pretty strong statement about that. Absolutely.
To Shane's point, I was wrong. SMU is 75th strength of schedule. Their strength of schedule is 75th in the country. Indiana, 65. Notre Dame is sitting at 57. Penn State's at 36. Notre Dame's biggest win is Texas A&M, who is not ranked anymore. Also, Notre Dame beat an Army team that's not ranked anymore, beat a Navy team that's not ranked anymore. Penn State's big win is Illinois, who's barely ranked. Indiana's best win is a mediocre Michigan team, but they beat Ohio State, Terry. Yeah, but they are. I would like to know how much rent Michigan is paying to live in Ohio State's head. Michigan's a mediocre football team. Alabama, Ole Miss, South Carolina, all better resumes. Better wins. Again, Penn State. I asked this yesterday. If we're going to go by this idea that our buddy Ward Manuel spewed out of, his person. I almost said something really bad, Dave. Spewed out. Should have tested Dave on the dump button. Tuesday night, Alabama, their record against top 25 teams is this, and here's their record against teams above 500. Okay, fine. Now, here's where the lack of consistency goes. Well, Georgia has got a better resume than Penn State and Notre Dame looking at the same process. Why is Georgia behind Notre Dame and Penn State? They only have one more win than Georgia, just like Miami had one more win than Alabama. And I'll throw another one out. That process also says that Ole Miss and South Carolina should be above Miami. They're not. Why? And that's the thing. You start going down this road with we only take metrics that fit our agenda and we throw them out. You leave yourself open for these kind of criticisms because you're not consistent. Because, again, I'm going to go to the link that gives me the consistent criteria used by the College Football Playoff Committee. Oh, there isn't one. So that's the issue. There's just not a consistent criteria set in stone. There should be some metric to measure strength of schedule, making it matter. if someone says, well, strength of schedule, sometimes you look at your conference, you got to look at your non-conference strength of schedule. Who you play in the non-conference? All right, well, you can look at strength of schedule. You can also break down non-conference strength of schedule. There are ways to do all this if you want to make it truly matter. And who you play should matter. This whole thing, well, you just got to play who's in front of you. Yeah, but you schedule these games. And yes, sometimes you schedule out a few years. Like Texas thought Michigan that would be a good game in Ann Arbor. Longhorns would test themselves on the road against a good Michigan program. Well, turns out it wasn't a very good Michigan program. Wasn't Texas's fault. So, yes, that does happen. But if you look at a schedule in totality and one team's playing tougher teams than another team, that's got to matter, man. It just does. But there's a lot of the bias that goes into this. Look, everything in this sport is about stereotype, think system, and biases. The automatic thought, for an example, you look at SMU. If SMU was playing in the SEC championship game with one loss, it wouldn't matter if they win or lose. Because Georgia's in. So is Texas. And if Georgia loses, they're a 3-loss team. No one cares they're in. Hell, SMU could be a 2-loss team and fall out of the college football playoff. Why? They play in the ACC. It's that simple. Why do you think Florida State and Clemson won out? One of the reasons is that if Florida State would have been undefeated last year and lost their starting quarterback and they played in the SEC, they'd have been in the college football playoff. Done. I bet all of Dave's money that would have happened. Dave's got more money than me. That's why I did it. It's just there's a bias toward the ACC and Big 12 compared to the SEC and the Big 10. There even is a bias compared to the SEC and the Big 10. Everyone says automatically that the best teams are in the SEC. Full stop. So, yeah, there's a bias. Again, if SMU was in the SEC and would lose their conference championship game, there's not even a conversation about falling out. But there's the perceived thought of the lack of strength of the ACC compared to, for an example, the SEC. Just is. So that's part of a lot of this. Now, South Carolina benefits from the SEC bias automatically because they're in the conference. But then South Carolina suffers because of the Alabama bias. So does Ole Miss, so does Miami. But that's just, look, is any of it fair? Of course not. But it's the way the sport goes. And when it affects you negatively, it sucks. It just does. No two ways about it. Let's get this cut in here real quick, Dave. Cut 3, Shane is talking about, Greg McElroy was on his podcast talking about all these teams we're talking or discussing, Ole Miss, South Carolina, Alabama, Miami. They're all flawed in some way, shape, or form. Here's Shane talking about Greg McElroy.
And I saw Greg McElroy on ESPN last night, and he said it like all those teams you're talking about, Alabama, Ole Miss, us, Miami, we all have flaws. Nobody's saying that we're perfect and that we just deserve to be in necessarily. I think we do. We all have flaws. But if you're looking at who's the least flawed, if you will, well, if you look at, who we've lost to, when we lost to them, how we lost to them, and who we've beaten, it's a pretty strong resume. So that's disappointing and really, really makes me sick for the players on our team that don't have another year here at Carolina.
Yeah, I mean, again, from your perspective, if you're Shane Beamer, and I totally get it, in totality, your resume is better than those teams. All the metrics say you've had a better season than those teams, except one. Looked at bigger than any of the other metrics, and that's head-to-head. There's nothing you can do about that one. Nothing you can do. But look back and say, well, maybe Lenora Sellers is healthy in the LSU game, and maybe if there's a couple of calls that aren't made, you beat LSU. Or if you execute at the end of the Alabama game and you beat the Tide, you're not having a conversation with this either. Because then your record's better. You're not losing this head-to-head battle as much, because then it's kind of like, okay, so maybe you lost Ole Miss, but you beat Bama. So the metrics would, again, possibly change into your favor, maybe. because I still have the feeling that this committee will do everything they can to get all the blue bloods in they can, because that's better TV ratings and more money for everyone. Firehouse Sub Text the Hour next here, 803-404-6100. I got to go in about Captain Dave on the text line. We'll get to that next. It's a halftime show. Terry Ford, Dave's here helping out. We're running until 3 on the game. Get our Firehouse Sub Text of the Hour in here on the old halftime show. Terry Ford, David Dare. We roll till 3 here on the game, 3:30 again. Jeremiah Donati will be officially introduced as a new athletic director at South Carolina. The TCU AD will be coming to South Carolina. And like I said, you'll hear the beginning amount of the presser right here on 107.5 The Game in Columbia, not with our affiliates in Florence and Myrtle Beach. All right, here's a Firehouse Subtext. The hours from Joey. Can you ask Dave, does he have a blue leisure suit like from Christmas Vacation?
It's not blue, it's tan.
You have a tan leisure suit?
I did.
You did? You don't anymore?
Yeah, it's like that. Did you ever see Freaks and Geeks?
Oh, yeah.
You know, where the little kid thinks it's a great idea to buy one of those leisure suits. He goes to school in it.
You had that one?
Everybody laughs at him.
You had that one?
Not talking. Not saying. You could order them in Sears, you know.
Oh.
The Sears catalog, man.
My dad, Dean Ford, had himself some leisure suits. Wow. Do you remember, I don't know if this thing is still around, it might be. Do you remember the mail order catalog thing called Finger Hut?
Oh, yes. My mother ordered everything.
My dad ordered his wardrobe from Finger Hut. That's all you need to know. My dad and Finger Hut. Matter of fact, you know, my Finger Hut would call my dad. We haven't heard from you in a few months. You want to buy something?
My dad give you a credit card, you know, Finger Hut.
It's awful.
You can't get a credit card anywhere else. It doesn't matter. Finger Hut.
Finger Hut is your place, I tell you. My dad had these banana yellow pants. Wow. Anyway, my dad also, God love him, love him to death. He would be the shorts and dress shoes guy.
Wow.
Yeah.
White socks, too?
Yeah, dress socks. Dress socks, dress shoes, and shorts. Man. And a button-down shirt. Short sleeve. He got remarried, and my stepmom was like, I'll marry you on two conditions. One, you stop wearing the hairpiece, and two, I get to dress you. So he stopped wearing the hairpiece, and she started dressing him. He started looking okay. Oh, yeah. He wore a hairpiece for a year, and he thought nobody knew. Come on, Dad. Stop. I told a story here. One time we were walking to the grocery store together. I looked to talk to him, and a tag was sticking out of his head. It said dry clean only or something. It's like, Dad, there's a tag in your head. Remember the mirror by the meat in the meat section had the mirrors?
Yeah.
He ran over there and stuffed the tag back in his head. God love the old man. All right, but anyway, Dave does not own a blue leisure suit. He used to own a tan leisure suit.
He was hip, man.
It was never hip, Dave.
No, it wasn't.
Never hip, Dave. No, I take it back. When I was a little kid, they wore the leisure suits to the discos, right?
Yeah.
Like in Saturday Night Fever, they were wearing some leisure suits in the clubs.
Yeah.
When they were discoing. So you had your disco leisure suit back then.
It always seemed to be the thing that like 50-year-old guys with hairpieces wore to the disco. Did you know I was a club DJ, disco days?
Did you do it?
Yeah.
You know, when I first was coming out of school, I did some spinning in some bars and clubs.
Yeah, Bose. A lot of old people remember Bose, man.
Bose.
Yeah, meet me at Bose.
You know what I always noticed about that? When you were spinning in those clubs, you got a lot better looking.
Oh, yeah. It's very dark in there.
Yeah. So Dave does not own a blue leisure suit. Appreciate the text like always. 803-404-6100. We're going to be firing up some more Shane Beamer. We go football in the 1 o'clock hour, obviously sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. Shane said a lot yesterday about a variety of topics, you know, about bowl opt-outs, about, you know, again, what's going on with the college football playoff rankings, the early signing day recruits. I think my favorite moment from Shane, and you heard it here a minute ago in a long cut, but we had to save it because it was such gold, was Shane talking about the term data points.
Ward manual. If I hear the word data point one more time in my life, I may throw up.
So good. Because we all agree, very few people aren't shaking their head yes when they hear that. Tired of data points. Especially when you're really not looking at a lot of them. You're just not. Because if you were, you'd look at some things differently. So anyway, we'll get to more Shane in the 1 o'clock hour. We do football. Talking about, you know, one of the things we'll get to with Shane coming up is about, in the next hour, is about bowl opt-outs. Which, it's going to be interesting to see how many guys don't play for South Carolina. Especially on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, is Nick Emanwari going to opt out? Because Emanwari is looked at as one of the top safeties in the draft. I feel like Eamon Warrior will definitely go in the second round, and if somebody really likes him, he could sneak up in the first round because Eamon Warrior is going to have a phenomenal underwear Olympics in Indianapolis at the Combine. He is going to test crazy. Would Eamon Warrior play? What about some of the other guys like a Kyle Kennard, a Demetrius Knight, a TJ Sanders? So, we'll get Shane's thoughts on bowl opt-outs in the next hour as well. It is a halftime show. Terry Ford, Captain Dave. Again, we roll nothing but football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors, right here on The Game. 1 o'clock hours, football on the halftime show. Terry Ford, glad you could be hanging. A lot of Shane Beamer. We'll get back to Shane here in a second. Again, 3:30 today on the game in Columbia at 107.5. We will have the announcement of the new athletic director, Jeremiah Donati from TCU. Will be officially announced to take over for Ray Tanner. Again, that's coming up at 3:30. We'll be bringing you a decent amount of that presser. Again, that is later on today during the postgame show. All right, Shane Beamer, many things to say to the media. Let's get this, Dave, real quick. Cut one. It was a very good question asked to Shane about his range of emotions over the last 5 days, obviously starting with beating Clemson. Then you get to the college football playoff. Then you get to early signing day where South Carolina had a top 20 class. So here's Shane talking about the roller coaster of emotions that he's been on the last few days.
Yeah, let's see. Joy to the highest degree on Saturday and happiness throughout Saturday. Sunday was joy, happiness, appreciation, gratitude for the season that we had, exhaustion from the season that we had as well. Monday was a lot of excitement in the morning. We got the players in here Monday morning. We gave everybody off on Sunday. Got the players in here on Monday and reviewed the tape from the Clemson game and looked back at that. So that was a fun day, just because, as you can imagine, you win that game and what it means. A lot of excitement and happiness on Monday morning. The rest of Monday throughout Tuesday was just busyness, and because of everything going on, portal, recruiting, individual meetings of players, wrapping up the season. There's a lot happening, planning for what the December looks like. Last night about 7 p.m. was absolute shock and disappointment at 7 p.m. And I won't lie, Hale, it's been pretty that feeling really hasn't changed since yesterday at 7 p.m., except for the excitement of this group that we just brought in, and then the excitement of being able, we practiced this morning, so being able to get out on the practice field with our guys this morning was pretty cool as well. So yeah, it's been a range of emotions and still is, but there's one great positive, and that's this group of signees that we've just put together today.
So yeah, I mean, you go through all that, right? Because that win at Clemson was fantastic. You carry that wave. You're figuring, okay, college football playoff, we're going to get some love. We beat the number 12 team on their home field. We should move up here, right? And then you don't, and then you get frustrated with it. But you do have the excitement of what you brought in, was a top 20 class on early signing day. Let's get this one, Dave. Cut 9. Shane was asked, where did he think South Carolina would be in the college football playoff rankings? And cut 9, Dave.
It's a good question. I mean, I'm not going to get up here and knock Ole Miss and Alabama and that they should be below us and all that as well. I just really felt like if the committee looked at it and said, who are the 12 best teams right now, it would be hard for them to say that South Carolina is not one of them, and that we've won 6 straight games. 4 of those were against ranked opponents, at the time, that we had won 4 true road games, 3 of them by double digits. We just beat the number, whatever Clemson was last week, ranking-wise. We just beat them in their stadium. I just felt like they would say, let's take a step back and let's just look at the whole body of work and forget about the records. Let's look at the strength of schedule. Let's look at who this team has played. Look at how they're playing right now. Let's look at the fact that some of the injury situations they had, and really take a deep breath and have a clean slate. And I just thought that we'd be higher than we were. And based on the text messages that I've gotten, or phone calls that I've gotten today from national media members that are the who's who of college football in the national media, and some coaches, I don't think I was wrong in feeling that way.
Again, when you look at the resumes in the deeper dive, South Carolina has the better resume. They do. All the metrics, the strength of schedules, and, the number of top 25 teams that you've beaten, all those things point towards South Carolina. But you lost head-to-head to Ole Miss and Alabama, and this committee is focusing on that for their agenda. Because it's just, I hate to be cynical. I really do. But we've seen enough evidence over the years to know that this is not objective. Never is. Never objective. So, all right, Shane also, Dave, let's get to this cut. We were talking about bowl opt-outs. South Carolina, there's rumor of the Citrus Bowl, the Gator Bowl, ReliaQuest Bowl. Still heard a little bit of Music City, but I just feel like South Carolina will end up in one of the Florida Bowls. Here's Shane talking about, again, Cut 14, the possible bowl opt-outs for the Gamecocks.
I would hope that would be the case. No one has told me they're going to. Have I had some conversations with some guys on our team, just kind of where they are and what their thought process is? Sure. And we've got some guys who are going to be some high draft picks, but I will say this, the players on this team are extremely motivated to try and go get a 10th win. And that's really important to a lot of guys. And I've had players on the team that have come and talked to me about, hey, what do you think and what's your opinion in regards to my status for the bowl game? But nobody's told me they're going to opt out. I hope they don't. But everybody has, some guys have a decision to make as well. But like I told them, there's nothing that you have to decide right now. Let's see what happens Sunday. Let's see where we're going, who we're playing, and we got plenty of time to make those decisions.
So right now, no one's come to him and said about opting out. It's just going to be interesting. Maybe no one does. Maybe this team is united to go win a 10th game. That'd be great. But if guys do opt out for, NFL draft reasons, I mean, when that first happened a few years ago, I was like, what are you doing? You're turning your back on your team. Your team needs you. You're playing in a bowl game. And as time has gone on, I'm like, especially when the heightened importance of the playoff compared to a New Year's Day bowl game or a bowl game in general, I was like, really? Then you've seen injuries to players in bowl games that have hurt their draft positions. And you start to say, some guy's going to get drafted pretty high in the NFL draft, and he wants to protect his draft position by not risking injury. Okay, I get it. Totally understand. But then I said, let me put myself in that guy's position. If I'm risking a lot of money, and sometimes you would be if you get hurt, you have a major injury, and you can get insurance, but that's not the same. There's stories about guys trying to collect on their insurance after getting hurt in a game, and good luck. You might get it. You might not get all of it, and it might take forever. But if you're risking a lot of money, you don't want to play, I probably wouldn't play. I wouldn't. If I was going to be a first-round pick in the NFL draft, I most likely wouldn't play in a bowl game unless it was a college football playoff game. I wouldn't. So I understand it. But if these guys decide to play, go get them. Remember a couple of years ago when Bryce Young and Will Anderson played at Bama in the bowl game? I was like, wow, guys are risking all that money. Hope it works out, and it did. They both got through the game healthy. Both were high first-round picks, obviously. So, again, if guys do it, they do it. Remember Jalen Smith at Notre Dame tore up his knee and knocked him out of the first round years ago. That's always the concern. You don't want to be that guy. You don't want to be the next poster child of the dude that shouldn't have played in the bowl game. But if the Gamecocks all say, hey, man, we're not opting out because we want to go win number 10, that'd be mighty cool. Again, heard Gator Bowl, heard Citrus Bowl, heard Gasparilla Bowl. And I believe we put a little Twitter X poll about that today. Let me check, because I believe we did. Here it is. I found it. Look at that. Poll question of the day. What bowl game would you most want to see the Gamecocks in? Gator Bowl, ReliaQuest Bowl, Citrus Bowl, Music City Bowl. So far, almost 200 votes, almost 1,000 views. Thank you very much. Runaway leader, right? Well, where would you rather go, Dave? If we gave you a ticket to go to one of these 4 bowl games, Gator Bowl in Jacksonville, ReliaQuest Bowl in Tampa, Citrus Bowl Orlando, Music City Bowl in Nashville, where do you want to go?
Personally, I'd want to go to Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
Love Nashville.
I've never been to Nashville. Have you?
No, that's why I want to go.
Yeah, that's on my list. I want to go to Nashville in my life. I've been to Jacksonville, been to Tampa, been to Orlando. Have not been to Nashville. Now, for bowl purposes, you want to go to the Citrus because that's the better of the 4 bowl games. And I get folks don't want to go to, Gator because that was 2 years ago, Jacksonville. I mean, Tampa's all right, and Tampa's not a bad town. It's fine. But I've
what
never
stadium
been
they playing in there?
Huh?
What stadium they playing in Tampa?
Now they're playing the Buck Stadium. Who knows what the name of that thing is now because it changes names all the time. They're playing the Buck Stadium. A couple of comments just on which bowl, Citrus Bowl, but the Gator Bowl against Miami would be fantastic. We got another one. Vegas, baby. Now, Vegas did come up in all this. I think South Carolina, with their record with 9 wins, has played themselves out of the Vegas Bowl. Probably play themselves out of the Music City Bowl, too. But Vegas wouldn't be a bad place to go. I kept joking with our lady in charge. I was like, if they land in Vegas, I think Gamecocks game day needs to be live in Vegas at the Bellagio. She wasn't going for that for some reason. So far.
What about Shreveport? That's a lot.
I think, yes. I've never been to Shreveport. Have you ever been to Shreveport?
We went through it driving to Dallas like at 3 a.m.
So
didn't stop.
Whenever you start with the town and say, I drove through it, what does that tell you your thoughts on the town? I drove through it.
Yeah.
It's like I said when I worked in Biloxi, I would always say I drove through Alabama. Wasn't stopping. I drove through Alabama. I hear Mobile's a fun town.
Yeah.
I hear it can be a party.
On the coast, right?
I hear it can be a party. So I love New Orleans back in the day. They say Mobile sort of like a mini New Orleans. They have a Mardi Gras too in Mobile or something. But anyway.
Isn't that where Hank Williams is buried?
I think you're right.
I've been to his gravesite. That was my highlight of Mobile.
The highlight of Mobile is a tombstone.
It's a big tombstone, huge.
By the way, though, do you think the folks who run the Chamber of Commerce come to Mobile and look at Hank Williams' tombstone?
Probably, because I can't think of anything else there.
All right, anyway, so the folks have picked so far the Citrus Bowl in Orlando. Far and away is what they'd like to see South Carolina go again. Plenty of time to vote on this. This won't end till tomorrow. You go to our Twitter X at 1075 The Game. Check that baby out. More Shane, that's coming up. But we're going to switch gears a little bit. Rhett Laxley, the head coach, Rhett Laxley, the head coach, Lashley. I can't talk. Rhett Lashley, the head coach at SMU, gives his thoughts on what losing the ACC championship game should mean if that would happen to SMU. Also, Dan Radakovich, remember, he used to be the AD at Clemson, now the AD at Miami. His thoughts on Miami being left out. Obviously, old Dan's not happy. And Ryan Day's talking again. So we got all that coming up. Football, the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. I'm telling you, I had way too much of the special iced tea today at the party. Halftime show, we go till 3 here on The Game. We are rolling football, the 1 o'clock hour. Sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors here on the game. We'll get back to Shane and some of his thoughts. Kind of focus on the early signing day haul that South Carolina got yesterday. Top 20 in the country. I think 10 4-stars according to On3's industry rankings. No 5-stars this time. No Dylan Stewart's or Nick Harbors, but 10 4-stars. In the class. So we'll get Shane's thoughts on some of those. First of all, though, we're going to flip over and talk. First of all, SMU is playing in the college football, not in the college football, the ACC championship game. And there is talk, what if SMU would lose to Clemson? What happens to SMU? Can they fall out? Here's Rhett Lashley, the head coach of the Mustangs, saying that's not a good thing if SMU gets beat by Clemson and falls out of the college football playoff.
If our team all got COVID today and didn't play, we're in. Wow. We're in, right? We don't have another data point to drop us below anybody that's behind us.
Based on what happened in 2020, that's how we go. Yeah.
I think if you open up that door, you're going to see a lot of people do a lot of crazy things. Yes, we're not going to. We're going to go play in Charlotte, and we're going to try to compete for our championship because that's the right thing to do. That's what competitors do. We value an opportunity to share the field with someone like Clemson, a fantastic team, and try to do something special. And so I just, like I said, I'm going to choose to believe that on Sunday that the right thing will be done as well on the other end.
Did Rhett Lashley say data point?
Ward manual. If I hear the word data point one more time in my life, I may throw up.
So, look, I think in theory, if you're a one-loss team and you play for a Power 4 conference championship, and if you lose, in theory, you shouldn't get knocked out of the college football playoff. In theory. It just doesn't sound like, well, you're penalizing a team for making its playoff or championship game in conference. Remember Lane Kiffin was talking about this about the SEC. Do you want to go to the SEC do you want to go to the SEC championship game, get beat, and then get penalized for it? Aren't you better off not playing? For an example, I mean, let's say that Clemson, Miami, and SMU all had the same records, right? They all were 2-loss teams with the same conference mark. And by tiebreaker, let's say all three are in the college football playoff. The team that doesn't play for the ACC championship is better off of the three. Because you're done. You're in the clubhouse, you're signing your card. It's over. You can't get dinged. You're safely in. Indiana's is in a great spot in the Big Ten. Indiana's in. They don't have to play in the Big Ten championship game, they're in. Now, Oregon and Penn State are also in, even if they lose. But if the situation were a little different, and let's say the loser of the Big Ten championship, for whatever reason, might get knocked out, Indiana's in a better spot than the other two, because you're in. So, yeah, the thought of getting knocked out because you lose your championship game doesn't sound right. But in this scenario, again, if you're looking at resumes, SMU's resume doesn't stack to Alabama, South Carolina, Ole Miss. Just doesn't. Strength of schedule 75. They don't have anywhere near top 25 wins like like some of these other schools. Their resume doesn't equal what other teams have. And then you throw a second loss in. But yeah, once you open that door, it just tells you you're not safe. But you are. Look, let's flip this around. Most likely you're safe if you play in the SEC championship game or the Big Ten championship game. This is really about the ACC and the Big 12. I mean, let's just be honest. All right, 344-6100. Let's get Casey in here. Casey, thanks for holding on. You're on the halftime show in the game. What's up, my man?
So I wanted to chat with you a minute about the college football playoff, and it sounds like what you're telling me is, we got two teams in every conference that are going to get automatic ins with a loss or a win every year. And I don't like that simply because most teams that are going to go into it aren't going to have perfect records. They're normally going to probably have 1 or 2 losses. And then if your strength of schedule is horrible and you do obtain a second loss, they should be kicked out. And then somebody on the fringe with a better resume, that's the spot that's going to move up. That's the way it should be anyway, I think. And as far as bowl games, they still have a very big importance. I don't know if it has the same importance for all teams across America, but our case in general, it's a very important bowl game because going to 10 wins in college football in one season, that's a big statement. I don't care how you look at it. And if Shane Beamer and those kids, all of them play, or maybe 1 or 2 decide to stay out, that's a big statement of the culture at our program if a lot of them play. But 10 wins is big, so bowl games are still very important to teams like us that have done what we've done. And that's what I'd have to say about it.
Well, Casey, I appreciate it. And, again, you hope that 10-win thing matters enough to where you have very few opt-outs, or maybe you don't have any. And that's the perfect world, right? If you don't have any and you go and you win your bowl game and you have a 10-win season. First 10-win season since Steve Spurrier was here. That should matter and mean a lot to Shane and that football team, sure. But I'm just one of those people, if someone says, you know what, I kind of want to get ready for the NFL draft. I want to protect my draft position. I don't want to get hurt, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I can't dog you. I get it. I do. But if you decide, you know what, I'm going to play, go get them. That's your decision. Go get them. And it would be great to see South Carolina post that 10th win. I mean, Shane brings it up, and let's get it here about talking about recruiting and this season and what it's done to help the program talking to recruits. We'll fire that one up for you. Let me get that one here real quick while I'm thinking about it. Here's Shane talking about how this does help having such a successful season on the recruiting trail.
Yeah, it's been, let's be real. If you're winning on the field, it makes everything better. It makes life better when you're winning. And y'all have heard me talk about it on Monday nights during the season. We take an hour as a coaching staff and we just stop everything that we're doing and we just get in the staff room and just FaceTime recruits for an hour straight. And there's a lot more energy and excitement when you're doing that when you're nationally ranked as opposed to when you're 2-6 and just got beat by A&M and you got Vandy or Jacksonville State or whoever we had coming to town. There was just a lot of excitement inside this building and outside this building and energy about South Carolina football this season. And it's why we were able to keep this group of guys together that were committed before the season. It's why some of these guys that weren't committed before the season decided they wanted to be Gamecocks. It's why some people that maybe didn't think we were going to have the year that we had, all of a sudden this week are calling us saying, hey, what's the coach? We love you. You really didn't. You didn't think we were going to win this year, and that's why you committed somewhere else. So don't be calling us now as well. So there's a lot of energy and excitement, and that will only continue to move us forward. This is a popular place to be. Last year at this time, it was trying to keep your roster intact. And we still are to a certain degree. I'm not an idiot. I know we got a lot of players on our team that are very attractive to a lot of other colleges across the country. But last year it was more trying to keep your roster intact. And this year it's those guys want to stay here because of what's coming. And now they've got high school kids that want to come play with them. And they've got guys at other colleges that are now hitting them up, meaning our players, about how much they want to come play football at South Carolina.
There you go. Things have changed since last year, right? For the better, when you're just trying to hold it together, coming off a disappointing 5-7. All right, football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. I want to get back to one of the point that Casey made about the college football playoff, the conference championship games, because Casey made an interesting point. And Dan Radakovich, the AD at Miami, former Clemson athletic director, went on Sirius XM. Not happy as Hurricanes are being right now out of the college football playoff. It's a halftime show. Terry Ford hanging out with you up until 3 on the game. What we're talking about is football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. 3:30 presser at South Carolina. You will hear here on 107.5 The Game. Jeremiah Donati will be named the new athletic director at South Carolina. Donati at TCU right now. He will replace Ray Tanner, who is taking on a new role at the university. Again, 3:30. You will hear that right here on 107.5 The Game in Columbia. All right, if we roll football in the 1 o'clock hour, we'll get back to hear more from Shane Beamer. But first, Dan Radakovich, obviously the AD at Miami, not very happy. Totally understand. Miami falls out of the college football playoff as they slip in behind Alabama after losing at Syracuse, Miami's second loss of the year. Here's Radakovich stumping for his team.
It was disappointing. Because we've had a great season. We obviously the record 10-2, 6 wins over bowl teams. We have a great offense to watch, number one in the country, a potential Heisman Trophy winner in Cam Ward. We thought that our body of work had done enough to put us in a position to be within the 12-team playoff. And, unfortunately, the committee, and I know the committee's work is difficult. I had the opportunity to participate on that committee a while back, and it is a very challenging task. But certainly thought that we had done enough at that point in time. And then after the circumstance had come forward, after the rankings finished, the flurry of data points along the way had come forward, and certainly gave us even more pause to say, wow, I thought that the Hurricanes really had done enough and should be inside that college football playoff.
Oh, Dan Radakovich said it. Data points. Oh.
Ward manual. If I hear the word data point one more time in my life, I may throw up.
Oh, me too. Anyway, Dan Radakovich, again, you can twist and turn stuff however you want, right? Okay, you have 6 wins over bowl teams. You have no wins over top 25 teams. Your best win is Louisville, if my memory serves me, which sometimes it doesn't. So I will do what I should do. I'll do my little due diligence here, and I will double check. Best win over Louisville. Just be honest. That's the best one. Louisville, not in the top 25, was for a bit and fell out. I mean, the Florida win looks better now, since Florida's a 7-win team, but still not a top 25 squad. Last time I checked, Florida A&M and Ball State aren't. South Florida's not. Virginia Tech's not. Cal's not. Florida State sure isn't. Duke had a really good year, but they're not ranked. Here's Wake. So, again, your wins over, you don't have any wins over the top 25. You can say, 6 bowl teams. Okay. That's how you can, again, manipulate the argument, just like everybody else can. And that's the issue. And we've talked about this. There's no, set criteria by the NCAA on how they are going to select teams, because they don't want one. They like committees. Let's go get some lunch. Maybe grab a beer or a coffee. We're a committee. They like committees. So they don't want a criteria that would take away their committees. Because then you can put your agenda to the selections without having this thing called rules that gets in the way. Don't want any of that. Don't want rules, but want committees. But Miami's resume just doesn't match Alabama, South Carolina, or Ole Miss. Just doesn't. But again, the resume matters sometimes, and sometimes it doesn't. It matters in putting Alabama ahead of Miami, but it doesn't matter in putting South Carolina and Ole Miss ahead of Miami as well. And it doesn't matter in really putting Georgia ahead of Penn State and Notre Dame, even though Georgia's resume is better than those two. Even though they're one game back, so to speak. Just like Alabama, one game back from Miami, didn't stop the committee from moving Bama ahead of Miami. Why wouldn't it stop the committee from moving Georgia ahead of Penn State and Notre Dame? That's the problem with all this. That's the deal. All right, back to Shane. Did a lot of talking about many subjects yesterday. Let's look at this early signing day class. A lot of wide receivers, bunch of 4-star wideouts in this class. Here's Shane talking about his wide receivers from early signing day yesterday.
Yeah, I think Mike Furry like I said, has been amazing. He came in on a mission, Allen, that, okay, who's this dude you just hired from Limestone College? How can he go recruit in the SEC? And he took that personal and was on a mission. I think he said it in here when he got hired, that there's no reason why the best receivers in the country shouldn't come play for the University of South Carolina. And he went on a mission to go do that. And to be able to go into North Carolina, South Carolina, Pennsylvania, to go into PA and beat Penn State for a guy head-to-head, or to go into North Carolina and beat in-state schools for a guy head-to-head, and then beat the whole country for some of the players from here in South Carolina. Kudos to him evaluating those guys and then going after them and being able to just develop a relationship with them. And then, you talk about a guy from here in Columbia and in Jordan Gidron, who were recruiting like crazy for the class of 26, and then all of a sudden it comes to me midway through the season that he may now be in the class of 25 and could be in our team like in 2 months. And then to be able to get that's a huge addition for us. I got more tweets or posts on X than I care to remember from disgruntled fans at the Birdies for Beamer event, which is a great day, because Malik Clark committed to Florida State that day, and there was all kinds of talk. You should be spending less time playing golf at the golf event, and more time recruiting, and recruiting's going the wrong way, and blah, 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 blah. How do you lose an in-state kid? Well, like Matthew McConaughey and Dazed and Confused, just patience, patience. And we were fine. I knew it was a long way until signing day. And let's be frank, there was a lot of, today's a tough day for why do you want to go to South Carolina? They're all going to get fired after the 24 season crowd, which there was a lot of that going on the last season as well. And I knew once we started winning football games, all that stuff would take care of itself. And, we continued to recruit Malik. I went up there the weekend of the hurricane. I went up to Rock Hill and braved the elements to go to Rock Hill High School and see Malik. And I went to Brian's school that day, Brian Rowe, to see him as well, along with some other guys when I was up there in the Rock Hill, Charlotte area that first off weekend. And we just continued to gain momentum with what we were doing on the field, and then we were able to bring in that receiving crew and the rest of this signing class as well. But excited about them. And then obviously they all want to play for a great quarterback, and they see what we have in Lenoris as well. A lot of them know Dante Reno. Fired up about, Cutter Woods. He's a winner. Watched him play in the state championship game last year down in Orangeburg and win that game, so I know what he's about. So excited about what we've done from an offensive standpoint with those skill positions for sure.
Yeah, it's a haul of wide receivers and a good amount of 4-stars. And going back to the Malik Clark recruiting, first of all, I love the pulling a reference from Dazed and Confused. That was good. Malik Clark, remember, we were at Birdies with Beamer when the Malik Clark announcement came out that Clark was verbaling to Florida State. And we sat there saying, okay, yeah, that stinks, but long way to go. Long way till early signing day. You can always work on flipping these guys. And, Shane wasn't sitting there at Birdies Remember going, well, lost Malik Clark, gosh darn it. No, you just keep going. You keep recruiting them. That's why these, verbal commitments mean nothing. Because you keep recruiting. And for Shane and the crew, good for them. They eventually flipped Malik Clark's commitment to South Carolina. Malik signed yesterday, and all is the good in the world. That's simple. All right, 3:30, we'll have the press conference announcing the new athletic director at South Carolina. That'll be on the postgame show. We'll carry a good bit of that. Let you hear what's going on across the street of South Carolina. Again, that's a 3:30 presser. You're going to hear it right here in Columbia at 107.5. The game, not in Myrtle Beach or Florence, just here in Columbia at 3:30. And basketball tonight, the women taking on Duke. Late start. 8:30 pregame, 9 o'clock tip. Brad Muller on the call. Our buddy Ed Bird producing that shindig. That is tonight, 8:30 pregame, 9 o'clock tip, right here on 107.5 The Game in Columbia. Football in the 1 o'clock hour. We'll continue hearing from Shane as he talks about a bunch of different topics about the 2024 South Carolina Gamecocks. Also, Billy Napier. Yes, Billy Napier still has a job. We'll get into that next as Billy Napier talked on Sirius XM as well. That's coming up here on The Game. Firehouse subtext of the hour here on the halftime show. Terry Ford, glad you could be hanging. 803-404-6100. They should do away with all conference championships and just crown the champions with in-season records and also tiebreaker rules, expand the playoff, and start it earlier. I get you. I do, but here's the problem. Conference championship games make the conference money. It's about money. It is. I mean, there's a sponsor for the conference championship games. Big corporate title sponsor. It's another game to sell a lot of tickets, sell a lot of merch, TV ratings. So it's going nowhere. They're going nowhere. And they will be, to make them something, they will be the automatic berth in the college football playoff. I mean, I know Greg Sankey doesn't want that. Because you look at this year, you take away this automatic berth stuff and just go with the best 12 teams by, without automatic berths. I mean, Boise State's going to get kicked out most likely. You won't have to worry about the Big 12. You'll get more SEC teams in. Simple. But those conference championship games are staying, and you need to have them have some kind of legitimacy, right? So you want to make them the automatic qualifier to pop you into the college football playoff. I mean, the conference championship game in college basketball only matters in the mid-majors, right? The one bid leagues. Because that's when championship week means something. Because if you're a regular season conference champion in a mid-major in college basketball and you had a good year, but if you get upset in the conference tournament, there's a good chance might be like, oh, the NIT offered. Great. So that's reality. But the conference championship in football, they're not going to get rid of it because they make money off of it. Now, I want to go back to something Casey said, who called a little while ago here on the Love Chevy phone line, 803-404-6100, about that getting to the conference championship game shouldn't guarantee you a spot in the college football playoff. I didn't say that. I said, in theory, you shouldn't be penalized for that game if you're in the dance. If you're teetering, if you're on the line, if your team not with a great record or a team that's on the bubble for the playoff and you go play in that game and get whooped, that's a different conversation. But for an example, Georgia shouldn't be penalized. They shouldn't. Obviously, Texas won't be penalized. Then the flip side is in the Big Ten, because of where these teams are at, either Oregon or Penn State should get penalized. I'm saying get knocked out of the playoff. But, our stereotypes, biases, prejudices, whatever, always lean toward the SEC and the Big Ten anyway, right? It's like the SEC, there's no way you're going to bounce the team playing in the SEC championship game because it's the SEC. And because the Big Ten financially has so much clout, unless let's say an 8-4 Minnesota gets into the somehow, because their conference mark, whatever, I'm just making up stuff. Some craziness happens. And they're looked at as if they don't win the Big Ten championship game, they're not in. That's legit, that's fine. So much of this is fluid because, again, there's not a criteria put out by the NCAA. It's also fluid. It just is. So, really, it just depends on league. It depends on team. Instead of just saying, hey, if you make it to the conference championship game, win or lose, you're in the playoff. I don't think you can say that. I just said, in theory, in a perfect world, the top 8 teams that make it through are 8 teams that would be in the playoff, but it doesn't always work that way. So I just wanted to clarify that point. We got a lot of Shane Beamer to get to. Also a little Billy Napier talking on Sirius XM. We'll get to that as well, about his Florida team. Look, I was totally wrong about Florida. I thought Billy Napier, I figured Florida would win 5 games. Napier would get canned at the end of the year. They'd move on. Some circumstances happened, like Florida State sucked. But also Billy Napier's team, to their credit, played better than I thought they would. They beat Ole Miss. Didn't think that was going to happen. At all didn't think that would happen. I thought that gauntlet at the end of the year would cost Napier his job. It didn't. Matter of fact, it gave Florida momentum, top 10 recruiting class. Napier will be back next year. So, dead wrong about Florida. I figure he would be the guy that definitely get fired at the end of the year. With that schedule and everything that was going on with the Gators and his record at Florida, I thought he was dead man walking. All right, what's trending at 2? Coming up, sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions. 803-404-6100. Love Chevy phone line, Firehouse sub text line. It is the halftime show. Terry Ford rolling up until 3 on the game. Don't forget 3:30 presser. South Carolina announcing a new athletic director. You can hear it right here on 107.5 The Game in Columbia. That's coming up. Halftime show. Terry Ford, glad you can be hanging out with us. We roll up until 3. Then Jay and Elijah will take over post-game show here on the Game, Columbia, Florence, Myrtle Beach. We break away at 3:30, 107.5 The Game in Columbia. You'll be able to hear the announcement of the new athletic director. Again, that's 3:30 during the post-game show here on the Game. Real quick, hey, I just got a text. Folks at Great Clips at Hendricks Crossing in Lexington is listening right now to the Game. Appreciate you listening, and I might have to stop there because I need my hairs cut, all 6 of them. So Great Clips in Hendricks Crossing. Appreciate you listening. Thank you very much. What's trending at 2, sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions. Autograph signing at Gamecock Traditions. Lenora Sellers, Dylan Stewart coming in for autograph signings at the stores tomorrow and Saturday. Friday in Lexington, Saturday in Sand Hills. Sellers Friday 3 to 4:30. Stewart Saturday 1 to 2:30. Again, Sellers 3 to 4:30. Friday in Lexington at Gamecock Traditions. And Dylan Stewart Saturday 1 to 2:30 at the Gamecock Traditions in Sand Hills. All right, so what's trending at 2, sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions. One thing that's trending is Shane Beamer. Talking to the media yesterday, we played some cuts from his thoughts on the college football playoff rankings, which obviously Shane wasn't happy about. Also, early signing day, South Carolina 19th overall in the country, according to On3. And here's Shane. This is interesting. It's cut 17. The talk of recruiting players from winning teams. Now, a lot of times we talk about just getting the best guys. I mean, there are coaches chasing 5 stars and 4 stars. But I've always said, like the Jimbo Fisher method, where Jimbo just said, we're going to go get all the 5 stars we can. All the highest ranked guys possible. And you saw how it worked. It didn't. Because if you just go chase all the upper level guys and don't worry about how they fit in your culture, how they fit on your team, you're going to bring in a lot of me guys. And that just doesn't work. It doesn't work for your culture, your team dynamic. It just doesn't. Those guys just, they care about getting to the league. They could really give a bleep about your win-loss record. They don't care. It's always a mix. You got to bring in guys who are winners, guys who care about culture, and also you've got to go out and get high-level players. But if they can check those boxes as well, you're doing all right. I think I've told the story on the air once before. Jay Wright at Villanova, the former coach at Villanova basketball, they got to the Final Four, his first Final Four trip. They took out Pitt. And Jay Wright just wanted to take that run to the Final Four and cash it on the recruiting trail, just start chasing the stars. 4-star, 5-star. He was in the star system. And they went out and got some highly touted players, but they were underachieving. And Jay Wright realized something. We need players to fit our culture. We need Villanova players. We want the most highly ranked players that fit into what we do and who we are and who we want to be. And once Jay Wright did that, obviously a couple of national championships, more Final Fours, because he said, yeah, we want the best players, obviously, but we want the best players who are going to be good culture guys, guys who are winners, guys who care about the program, not just themselves. So it's an interesting conversation to have. And here's Shane answering the question of how important it is to recruit guys from winning programs.
No, I think they've all got really, really good teams. I like being able to bring in guys in our program that have high expectations and are used to winning. And when you're able to do that, it makes your overall culture better, in my opinion, because they're used to competing for championships. And all these guys that you're talking about, whether you're talking about Josh over at Dutch Fork or with Coach Knotts, or Ant over at Sumter with Coach Barnes, or Cutter up at Westside with Coach Lane. I mean, those are great programs that they do it the right way. And I was able to, during the second off week, I was able to go spend some time at Cutter's school on Friday before they left to go play somebody, and just watching how they coach and how they prepare, you see why they're successful. And you see why Cutter's successful as an individual. You see why their team is also. And to be able to get guys like that just, I'm always about, getting guys in here that love football and love to compete. And those guys do, along with a lot of these guys that are still playing in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, if you can get guys who are winners and are used to winning and are from winning programs that do it the right way, I mean, it's just a positive. Not to say guys who aren't from winning teams can't be winners and aren't winners and they're just in a program that's not winning for whatever reason, but you want guys that are winners, guys who care about winning. If you get that in a highly touted player, ding, ding. Shane also talked about getting these players in, early enrollees in, and getting them in for bowl practice, because, again, that's gold. The thing about the bowl game, it's great to play a bowl game. But what's even more important is the practices. Here's Shane talking about getting early enrollees in for bowl games.
We're working to try and get as many of them here for it as we can. That's something that we started working on about 2 or 3 weeks ago, that knowing that we were going to be in a bowl game and we wanted to get some guys here, they're able to do it. It's just a matter of them being able to get everything done paperwork-wise and academically at their high schools, and then the guidance counselors being able to do what they need to do. So it's something that we started the process of 2 or 3 weeks ago, John. We may have 15 here for a week of practice. We may have 0. It just kind of depends on how quickly they're able to get things done, but we'd like to be able to get as many guys here for it as we can.
Yeah, as many you can get in, do it. Go for it. I always think the early enrollee thing is interesting to me because, again, I wasn't a high-level high school football player. I wasn't a 5-star, a no-star, a 0, negative stars. And I always wonder because, man, I had a great time my senior year of high school. I had too much fun. I really, honestly had too much fun. I wanted to be the Van Wilder of my high school. It's like, man, I don't want to leave. This is cool. College will be fun, but then I'm going to be closer to this grown-up thing. Yuck. So I wonder if I was been a highly touted 5-star high school football player in high school, would I have said, you know what? I'm having a blast. But I'm piecing out of here to go to college early. I'm going to be an early enrollee. I don't know if I'd do it. But if you do, obviously you get a head start, right? You just do. And does it help? Sure it does. Helps you, you get in and you start practicing during those bowl practices. That is a thing. Absolutely. And if you want to do it and you're open to it and you can get there, great. If you want to hang in high school and enjoy your senior year of high school, nothing wrong with that either. Nothing wrong with that. All right, Billy Napier was on Sirius XM, and look, Florida at one point. Florida had, let's see, what was it? 1-1, 2-2, 3-3, 4. Florida was 4-5. Had just lost to Georgia and Texas by a combined 83-37. Basically, got taken to the woodshed 2 straight weeks. But in that period of time, it was announced that Billy Napier would come back. So you're looking at 5 wins, and then you have LSU, Ole Miss, Florida State. Now you have a chance to, you had 4 wins, I'm sorry. Now you have a chance to pluck Florida State, because they're terrible. But there's really no way you're going to beat LSU and Ole Miss, right? You're going to be 5-7, right? So why would you put out that Billy Napier's coming back? Well, to Florida's credit, they won their last 3. They beat 2 ranked teams, and LSU and Ole Miss. Well, yeah, LSU was still ranked. LSU and Ole Miss, and then took care of a bad Florida State team. Well, Billy Napier was on Sirius XM talking about how it was cool the way his team, with all of the adversity they went through, never gave up.
No one cares as much as these guys do, and I think that they were as frustrated as anyone, and I think the coaches and the players did a great job of collaborating, coming up with solutions. And then that Wednesday practice, that first open date, just as competitive and as passionate of a practice that I've been around in 20 years. And I think we just kind of got back to competing. And I think the players ultimately, then you go play Tennessee on the road and feel like you outplayed them, feel like you had an opportunity to win the game. Obviously, with the quarter, Graham getting hurt, DJ having to play, and then you go play Georgia and Jacksonville, feel a similar way. And then I do think, obviously, all of this led to an LSU win, an Ole Miss win, and a Florida State win. So we were close, but I just think they started to believe that they could play with anybody.
So Florida won 3 straight down the year. 9th-rated recruiting class. Life is good right now for Billy Napier. Again, that seat never gets cold, but temperatures turn down a little bit. Billy Napier might be able to sit on it right now without burning his backside. Maybe, just maybe. So now we turn and say, okay, who is on the hot seat in the SEC? Who might not survive the offseason? Mark Stoops at Kentucky. Wildcats are 4-8, 1-7 in the league. Stoops did make a lot of people happy when last offseason he flirted with the Texas A&M gig harsh. Why A&M would want to hire Stoops, I don't know, but that was the word. So Mark Stoops probably will get another year, but you can't do another 4-8 and 1-7 in the league. Hugh Freeze, the word is that the folks at Auburn love Freeze, which is not a shock. But Auburn's 5-7, 2-6 in the SEC. Another season like that, and you could see Hugh Freeze, despite a great recruiting class for Freeze. I don't know how many 5-7s are going to stand at Auburn. I just don't. And Brent Venables got to 6-6 at Oklahoma. That's all well and good. They got the upset of Bama to make them bowl eligible. But they're not sitting around for 6-6s in Norman. And this is the second time in 3 years Venables has underachieved. My guess is you better not do that this upcoming season. Jackson Arnold, the starting quarterback this year for most of the season. Remember, highly touted 5-star kid. This is why Oklahoma was feeling pretty good, even though Dylan Gabriel took off to Oregon. Jackson Arnold put himself in the transfer portal. How much is Oklahoma how much they try to stop him? I don't know. How much are they trying to woo him back now? I don't know. Is Jackson Arnold just wanting to see what's out there before he stays at Oklahoma? But it's very interesting. Brent Venables better kick it in with a 9-win campaign next season. Just saying. So those are the ones off the top of my head. Look, I'll say this too. I love Uncle Sam at Arkansas. I love Sam Pittman. Getting to a bowl game this year should keep his job. But if they slide under 500 next year, I could see Sam getting the boot. Hope not. Love me some Sam Pittman. All right, what's trending at 2? Sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions. Also, real quick, at Gamecock Traditions, there'll be an autograph signing. Lenara Sellers, Dylan Stewart, autograph sessions in the stores tomorrow and Saturday. Lenara Sellers will be in Lexington on Friday, 3 to 4:30. Dylan Stewart, Saturday at Sand Hills, 1 to 2:30. All right, what's trending at 2? Sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry, Gamecock Traditions. On the other side, Shane Beamer talking about the transfer portal because the portal's opening real soon, and South Carolina will be jumping back in. They need to add some folks. We'll get into that next. Hear what Shane has to say. Halftime show. Terry Ford up until 3 on the game. What's trending at 2, sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry, Gamecock Traditions here on the game. Terry Ford, glad you're going to be hanging out. We go to 3:30. We will have the presser as the announcement of the new athletic director. You will hear that in Columbia at 107.5. Again, that is coming up. Jermaine Donati from TCU will take over for Ray Tanner. And you will hear that on 107.5, the game in Columbia, coming up later on this afternoon at 3:30 with Jay and Elijah. All right, what's trending at 2, again, sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions. Been hearing a lot of Shane Beamer today. And hear a little bit more from Shane. We heard what he had to say about the college football playoff spot. Not very happy, obviously. And here's Shane. We're looking at the transfer portal now. And here's Shane talking about finding good quality players and leaders, sort of like a Dimitri Knight or a Kyle Kennard or Rocket Sanders. South Carolina, for the most part, crushed it in the portal. And you saw what it did for their season. And they're going to go back in because you're losing Kyle Kennard. You're losing Demetrius Knight. You're losing Boogie Huntley, Tonka Hemingway. TJ Sanders, I think, goes to the NFL. I think Nick Amon-Wari is going to go to the NFL. O'Donnell Fortune. You're going to lose a bunch. That's just defensively. On offense, Rocket Sanders will be gone. Torricelli Simpkins, Kamar Bell, Rashawn Lee, Gage Larvadane. Campbell, the wide receiver, will be gone as well. So you got to hit the portal. There's no doubt. And you want to find not just high-quality players, because those are fantastic, but you want high-quality people and leaders and culture setters like Knight and Kennard and Sanders and players of that ilk. Here's Shane talking about hitting the portal, looking for players and also looking for leaders.
Yeah, it's tough because all these guys that we just signed, we've been recruiting for multiple years. I mean, I can remember Mike Tyler coming over here in December of 2022 for Gator Bowl practices to watch us practice over there in the indoor. I mean, I still got a picture on my phone of me and him together 2 years ago. So a lot of these guys, we've been recruiting for a while now, whereas these, and you get to know everything about them, but you still don't know everything. The portal guys, you have about 24 hours maybe to figure out what kind of guy he is. Does he fit what you want? So guy goes in the portal. We've got a great, recruiting department, personnel department back there that immediately see a guy that goes in the portal. They start watching his tape, show it to the position coach, show it to the coordinators. Hey, what do you think? Yes, like him. Let's see if we can get him here on a visit. Then you get on the phone with him, find out more about him. Are you interested? And talk to the people around him. Maybe it's calling the coach of the college that he's coming from. Maybe it's calling that you have a relationship with, or calling the high school coach or whoever that may have been around them. And then just you get them on a visit, and really the visit, I think a lot of those portal visits, Lulu, are more like NFL, like free agent type visits. Like both sides are trying to figure out each other. And we had guys in on portal visits last season that we brought in because we liked them as a player. But then once they got here, we're like, I don't know if he's going to be what we're about. And you just have those conversations that I'm not sure this is going to be the right fit. And you kind of move on. So that's what it is. You just dig into them as much as you can and call as many people that know the person as that you can, that you can trust as well. And you're referring to Jeff Collins, and I've worked for Jeff. I worked with Jeff, and Clayton's worked with Jeff, and we had a trust factor, with him as well. And that's the main thing. And we're not perfect. As I've alluded to before, we've had some guys that we brought in January that aren't even here still. They left during the season or before the season. So we're not perfect, but that's it. But we're in the same boat as everyone. And that's the other thing, too, making sure when I answered Phil's question about when guys decided to go elsewhere, when Xavion initially committed to another school, or Malik initially committed to another school, it wasn't get on the phone with them and rip them a new one about the mistake they're making. It's handling things with class and doing things the right way, because you never know how things are going to turn out. A guy may be in a portal a year later, and you want to make sure that you guys, you handle things the right way if they don't come to your school. And it's the same. And you see that with portal guys, that maybe a guy goes in the portal that you recruited out of high school and you already know a lot of those answers to the questions that you have.
Yeah, I mean, it's quick. You know this if you follow college football. I mean, that whole portal deal, you got 24 hours, it's fast. We've heard stories of guys who go in the portal, they go, man, as soon as I put my name in, my phone started blowing up. Every school, it seems like, just, they have guys whose job is watch the portal. As soon as it opens, look for the guys. Because you got to do it quick. Can't screw around. But I think it's important, and Shane hit it, and you see it at Florida State this year. If you rely heavily on the portal, portal giveth, portal taketh away. Live by the 3, die by the 3. And, you can't just go leaning heavy on the portal every year. The goal is you build the foundation of your team by recruiting and developing high school players, and then you use the portal to fill in the holes where you think you're weak or you need more depth, right? Now, this year, again, you're going to have to go out and get a decent amount of guys through the transfer portal, it feels like. You're going to have to fortify defensive line, linebacker, corner, offensive line, running back maybe, wide receiver maybe. You feel pretty good at tight end, even though you're losing Josh Simon with Smith and Hunt. But, yeah, you're losing some offensive linemen. We said there was 3. Now, you got a bunch of young offensive linemen on this football team that were 4-star guys. You got a 5-star starting in Josiah Thompson. But you have other 4-stars in. And so you got depth of those young'uns, but it might be good to go out and get a vet or 2 just in case some of these young guys don't develop the way you hope. But you want the right guys. You don't want me guys. You want guys who are just like, my son would say, looking for a bag, Dad. You want guys who actually want to come in and work and be good leaders and good culture fits, help you win games, and get their bag. That's the goal. All right, Lamont Paris was on Carolina Calls last night as we roll What's Trending at 2, sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions. Lamont Paris with Derek Scott. Lamont talked about this team testing themselves early in this basketball season, especially in those first 5 games.
Yeah, right now. Yeah, no, it's a challenging schedule. That was by design, a lot of it. We had no control over the SEC-ACC challenge and who we would play with that one, but a lot of that was by design. If you look at our games through 8 games, I think we really stumbled in that first game. We weren't the same team as we are right now, but if you look at it, we also, through 8 games, have played 4 high major teams, 2 of which were in the top 25 away from home. And there aren't many people at this point through 8 games that have done that. And so you look at a lot of these records and they'll be, well, they're 7-0 or they're 7-1, and those records are not all created equal. So we challenged ourselves early. That was a fact. This next one, ECU, will be another tough challenge. Yeah. They have a unique way of playing. They're really stingy on the defensive side of things, and so. But it'll be nice to be back home for a while. Hopefully, fine-tune some things and get to playing some really good basketball as you head into conference play.
That's a good part of college hoops. You can test yourself early if you want to, setting some certain games up on your schedule, just to see who you are and what you got. And really, the one loss that's going to is at North Florida. That's the one that's really going to ding you on your resume. But, playing Indiana and losing is not a terrible thing. Obviously, you'd rather win, but, again, that's a solid basketball team. One other one from Lamont Paris, talking about ball movement, assist rates. The assist rate isn't where you'd like it to be. It was really good last time out against BC. But here's Lamont Paris talking about that stat assist rate.
People say it's a make or miss league, and that's the reality of it. And And there's a lot of that's happening in the college basketball, too. It's hard to just manufacture stuff if you're not making shots, driving to the basket and getting to the free throw line, which we've done a pretty good job of. But if you're not making shots, even those things become more difficult to get done. So I think if we had made some shots, some good looks that we've gotten, our assist numbers would be significantly higher.
Yeah, I mean, you can have good ball movement, you can pass the ball well, but if you can't finish with making shots, you don't get assists, which drags down some of your assist numbers and assist rate. Absolutely. What's trending at 2, sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions. Again, do not forget some autograph signings going on. Dylan Stewart, Lenora Sellers. Dylan Stewart at the Gamecock Traditions location in Sand Hills, Saturday 1 to 2:30. Lenora Sellers 3 to 4:30 at the Lexington location on Friday. Greatest day in the history of the world coming up next here on the Halftime Show on The Game. Greatest day in the history of the world, December 5th. Not going to lie to you. We always like to try to find some old school stuff here. We got one. Not so old school. Here's the one I was originally looking at. 1924, Red Green of the Hamilton Tigers scored 5 goals in an NHL game. Couldn't find a whole lot of old Red Green, though. Found a lot about Red Green, the comedian. And some other things about Red Green I can't share with you on the air. But yeah, really not a whole lot going there. So we go to 1972. Johnny Rodgers, Nebraska Cornhuskers, wins the Heisman Trophy, beat out Oklahoma's Greg Pruitt and his teammate, defensive lineman Rich Glover. Rodgers ended his college career with over 5,500 total all-purpose yards. Remember, also Rodgers had an iconic moment in what was called the game of the century in the early 70s against Oklahoma. Rodgers returned a punt return, 72 yards for the first touchdown of the game. It was a 35-31 seesaw back-and-forth game with Oklahoma. Was looked at as one of the greatest college football games of all time. People forget in this generation that Oklahoma and Nebraska was a heated rivalry in the Big Eight. Heated rivalry. So Johnny Rodgers wins the Heisman. Rodgers, a really good college career, obviously, at Nebraska. Whether it was returning kicks as a wide receiver. That over 5,500 all-purpose yards at that time was the NCAA record. Was a first-round pick in the NFL draft with the San Diego Chargers in 1973, but he decided to play in the CFL instead in Montreal with the Alouettes. 3-year contract, $100,000 a year. He said the Chargers were totally lowballing him. He came back to the NFL after spending 4 years in Canada, played a couple years with the Chargers, and didn't really do a whole lot. Had a couple good years in Canada, but Johnny Rodgers will always be known for how great of a college player he was. And that moment in the game of the century against Oklahoma. 1974, one of the greatest college basketball players no one ever talks about, David Thompson. Scored an ACC record 57 points. NC State beat Buffalo State. Thompson, that 57 was a point better than John Roach from South Carolina. Roach set the record in 1971. David Thompson was phenomenal. They had banned dunking. If you ever see the highlights of David Thompson, the old school highlights, dude would just go above the rim. His head's like above the rim. He just dropped the ball in the basket because couldn't dunk. Was a really good player in the ABA for a bit. Remember, he's the guy that lost the slam dunk contest to Dr. Che or Dr. Dre in that historic ABA slam dunk contest, which led to NBA slam dunk contest. It'd be funny if Dr. Dre won. But anyway, David Thompson was a heck of a player. Just some off-the-court stuff wiped out what could have been a phenomenal career. But 1974, David Thompson set the ACC record for points in a game. Some dude named O.J. Simpson on this day in 1976 rushed for over 200 yards and a touchdown in one of the Dolphins. Whatever happened to O.J. Simpson? Marcus Allen of Southern Cal in 1981 set the NCAA record for rushing yards in a season with 2,342. Also won the Heisman on that day. 1992, there's a great 30 for 30 about this. Second-ranked Alabama beat number 15 Florida 28-21 in the first SEC championship game. Antonio Langham picked off Shane Matthews, took it back for a touchdown with a little bit over 3 minutes left in the game. They kind of iced it for the Tide. They went on to win the national championship, beating Miami. Again, that 30 for 30 is about the SEC championship game and how this was, a crazy idea. There's a lot of pushback on this game. Roy Kramer was the commissioner of the SEC at the time. It's a really cool watch if you got like a little bit of time to kill. But the first SEC championship game. A couple NBA notes real quick. 2008. Here's what happened to O.J. Simpson. Former NFL star O.J. Simpson sentenced to 33 years in prison for kidnapping and armed robbery in 2008. 2012, Kobe Bryant scored 29 points, making him the 5th player in NBA history to score over 30,000. And on this day in 2016, Klay Thompson scores 60 points as the Warriors beat Indiana 142-106. So there's the greatest day in the history of the world, December 5th. All right, back to Shane Beamer talking to the media. Shane was asked about this flag planting stuff that's been going on. When a visiting team wins a rivalry game, they want to plant their flag at the 50-yard line on the other team's logo. Here's Shane Beamer's thoughts on this whole phenomenon that's kicked in with the flag planting on the opposing team's logo when you win in a rivalry game.
As far as the initial reaction, I'll be completely honest. I did not see it. I didn't know it was happening. As you guys know, when you go to Clemson, I think they let the whole stadium run on the field after the game. So I had a hard enough time trying to find my family, much less figuring out what the players were doing, because you can't see. I mean, it's chaotic down there because you got Clemson fans running up to you, you got Gamecock fans running up to you. So that part's a tough situation. We never once talked about it going into the game. Like, hey, fellas, when we win this football game, let's go plant the flag at the middle of the field. We never once said that. I've never said that as a coach. I know they did it last year. I guess we did it the year before up there at Clemson. We did it again on Saturday, which I did not know and did not see until afterwards. And then after the game, I saw all the things that went on across college football last Saturday that kind of, it was a black eye on the sport in a lot of ways with some of the stuff that happened post-game, pre-game, whatnot. I don't, like it. Dabo called me on Monday morning, I guess, Monday or Tuesday morning. He called me, and we talked about it, that, it's not what either one of us want, and not that anything that either one of us encourage. It's dangerous. Win the football game. Go celebrate. And we had a great conversation about that as well going forward, and kind of how we want to handle things. But it's nothing that I've talked to the team about this week. I mean, I'll talk about it next year when we get ready to play Clemson, when they're coming to Columbia. But, there have been a lot of other things on my mind this week with the team, a little bit more pertinent and pressing than that.
All right, the planting the flag thing, I've thought about this and thought about it. Not that, the powers that be in the world of college football care what my thoughts are, but I see why you want to do it. I get it. You win, you beat your rival, you're on their home turf. You want to go plant your flag to say, we got you this year. I get it. I do. And maybe if I'm playing and you win, maybe I'd want to go run over and do it. But obviously you see the reaction from the home team. And, yeah, you can also say, hey, you lost, suck it up, stand there and deal with your rival planting their flag on your logo in midfield. Just beat them, and you don't have to put up with it. I get people saying that, but it's not that easy. You've been out there and you play a game for 4 quarters against your quote-unquote hated rival, and they beat you on your home field. And now you're already like, you ain't happy, right? And so you go see your rival going to plant their flag on your logo, and you can say it's silly, it makes no sense, why does anybody care? But that means something at your house. Your field is your house. And someone going to plant their flag on your logo is basically desecrating your house in your mind. So you're going to go protect the house, right? So then you have these fights, these brawls, these whatever you want to call them. So to me, you have to ban the flag being stuck in the field. Planting the flag needs to go away. Because it's going to continue to cause these problems. So if you beat your rival on their home field, just go celebrate with your buds. Go celebrate with your teammates. I think the planting the flag thing just has to go, just because it's going to continue to cause all of what we saw last Saturday. And you just don't need it. You just don't. Our Firehouse Sub Text the Hour coming up, 803-404-6100. Also, maybe we'll yip a bit with Jay Phillips and Elijah Campbell. Don't forget, 3:30, the official announcement of the new athletic director at South Carolina. Will carry it on 107.5 The Game here in Columbia. Up next, Firehouse Sub Text the Hour. We'll wrap up the halftime show right here on The Game. halftime show. Terry Ford hanging out with you as we roll for a few more minutes here on the game. Firehouse Sub text of the hour, 803-404-6100. We've been talking about conference championship games. Of course, Rhett Lashley, head coach at SMU. Jay Phillips is here. Our handoff, sponsored by Little Pigs Alpine Road. I know you're stunned by this, Jay Phillips, that Rhett Lashley, the head coach of SMU, does not think a team should be punished for losing their conference championship game.
Yeah. There's a line in there somewhere. So, to be serious, if they lose, man, I think they should probably be in. I know they don't have a great strength of schedule rating, but their losses would be to 10-win BYU and at that point 10-win Clemson.
Mm-hmm.
Now you could say who else, but they went undefeated in conference play. I want to give, I don't know. He did a great interview, Rhett did, with Andy Staples and Ari Wasserman this week. I like that guy a lot. And quite honestly, Terry, I'm serious about this. Good for SMU to lock him up because I could have seen like North Carolina and West Virginia are open. Other jobs may be at some point. I don't know if Kentucky's going to open or not. I mean, there's speculation that it could. I think if it was gonna, it probably would have. So
I think
that.
So. Yeah.
But he'd be like a guy like that. With the passion of a fan base at West Virginia, but then are you stepping down in conference? So anyway, I don't know. You'd have two good losses, and the committee seems to have taken some of that into account. I don't know. Again, how they apply it selectively, I don't know, man. I don't know. Like, let's put it this way. If Iowa State loses in the Big 12 game, they're not going.
Oh, no, they're not. The Big 12 is a one-bid league.
And I think Arizona, so the winner of that one goes, and the loser does not.
I'll give you my thought in a minute. But here, let's see. Texter, you absolutely should be punished for losing a conference championship game. If head-to-head matters, then it matters for every game. You can't cherry-pick what fits committee's agendas. It's part of your resume. That should matter. I mean, I get what the texter's saying. For me, it's like this. Like all of the process of this mess, since we don't have a criteria that has been put together by anyone, because that ruins the committee and the TV show. Right. I feel like it's kind of fluid, isn't it? I mean, who gets the idea? Okay, you shouldn't be punished for getting to a conference championship game. Well, it really depends on who you are and what your resume is going in that game, right? Yeah. Like Clemson's going to lose and they're out.
Well, somebody called us yesterday with a good point, and he went to the extreme to make his point. So this scenario would be unlikely, but I'm gonna take. I don't even want to put a school, so I'm just gonna say Big State U, and Big State U has 8 conference games, and Big State U has 4 non-conference games, and Big State U went 0-4 in their non-cons. Mm-hmm. All right. And then Big State U starts conference play, and they go 7-1. And Big State U is in their conference title game against whomever, all right?
Right.
Tech. All right? So we got Big State U versus Tech. I don't care what Tech's record is. If Big State U loses that title game, they're not going to the playoffs.
No, they're not.
And then if they win, there's a 5-loss team going to the playoffs.
There's a bid stealer.
And that's again, that's an extreme. It's certainly a plausible scenario. How likely it is, I don't know. But I think the committee this year, Terry, will have a lot of thinking to do if Clemson beats SMU. And my gut tells me, despite whatever – what was the term you used this morning when we were talking about it? The brand loyalty, or something about the brand for Alabama. Like, does that have to go out the window at some point?
Can I be tinfoil helmet guy?
Yeah.
I think that committee would have a real tough time bouncing Alabama for SMU if they lose to Clemson. Agree. Because it's, again, Alabama.
I agree.
Now, that doesn't make it right.
Well,
but again,
listen,
like we always talk about,
right and wrong in this process is not there.
No,
there is no right or wrong.
You and I always talk about this, my friend. At the end of the day, these games are TV shows.
Yeah.
What's coming up? You got a 3:30 presser about the AD, my man.
Well, it's an important athletics announcement. They didn't tell us.
They said it on the live stream thing, announcement by the athletic director.
Okay, so they all right. Yes, we'll have that live coming up in a bit.
All right, Jay and Elijah next here on The Game. (803-875-MENS). That's the Men's Clinic of South Carolina. Look, low testosterone stinks. If you're a guy, you're getting older, and just what you used to be able to do, you can't anymore. Yes, you're getting older. That happens, but it could also be some low testosterone really dinging you, right? 803-875-MENS. You just make the call. You set up your consultation with Dr. Dan and the staff. It's free. It's confidential. And they will talk with you, listen to your story. If they think it could be low testosterone, they'll do the lab work. If it is low T, they'll put you on a program specifically designed for you. This is not a cookie-cutter deal. Everyone's different. They'll set you up on a program designed to help you get you back to feeling like you again. Again, 803-875-MENS. Just make the call, go in, have a talk. The Men's Clinic of South Carolina. Get yourself back to feeling like you again.